And we're back on Central Valley Talk. I'm Mike Scott, joined now by Carla Neal and John Moseley. They're going to talk about a school board recall that's about to go to the voters up in Madera County, the Golden Valley Unified School District. The recall is September the 1st, right? Yes. You're urging folks to vote no.
That is correct.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, and there was a board meeting last night, and some new things happened, so bring us up to date.
Well, the board meeting last night, we were hoping to get an April 1st and April 17th memorandums released. They were memos from, one was from county council to one of the attorney firms representing us. The district had thought that they could legally shift the tax burden from the new development areas onto the current taxpayers by freezing the cost of the general obligation bond they passed some years ago only to those of us who live there now, exempting the new development from paying the cost.
Right, which you don't think is fair.
Well, I don't think it's fair, but county council, in the letter, it says we really thought county council thought this was legal. Actually said he's now made a 180-degree turn, and does not believe it can be done legally. So they were hoping that what they had negotiated with the developers, and this is all about the developers and the old board and two board members, Steve Lewis and Mike Kelly, and how the three new board members, Kathleen Crumpton, myself, and Carla, got in looking at this, raised this issue that this is illegal, that you're, and then this memo comes out from county council saying that, you know, this idea of freezing it, relieving these people of their burden, their share of the cost of paying off the general obligation bond is actually not lawful. And, you know, they'll hear us say he didn't use the word not lawful, but in the memo it says he thought it was legal, but now he's done a 180 degree. And I looked at Mike Kelly and I go, if he's saying he thought it was legal and now he's 180 degrees on the opposite side of it, that means he's telling you it's not legal.
It may not say not legal, but that's how you interpret it.
Yeah. I mean, simple English speak.
Yeah.
Moreover, the second memo that came out says, look, not only is this troubling because we can't enforce it in court, but you have at least two groups of people who are individuals who are going to be able to sue us. Well, one of them is simple to figure out. They're all worried about them figuring this out. You're dealing with taxes. Who pays taxes? That's a group that can sue over having your taxes raised in an unlawful manner. And now you're dealing with people who buy bonds, who rate bonds, who set the interest rate. Well, I imagine that group could probably have some legal standing if all of a sudden the value of the land that you sold the bond on is less than it actually was reported to be. And that affects what? If you don't have as much assets as you said when you sold a bond, which is a loan to somebody, the interest rate's affected. Plus taxes have to go up for the smaller group. And so we from the beginning have said this is not right and we're going to have to renegotiate this. Now they will admit that they thought they might have a problem because they'll say, well, our defense, we put in there that we would have to go back if it was found to be improper. Well, there's more than one section like that. So a recall was started, and we never really could figure out why. And then last night we met trying to get permission from a majority of the board to release these two memos, just these two memos, for the public to read, how they were going to set up a Melrose district, how they were going to exempt some taxpayers from paying their fair share, if you shift the burden. Mike Kelly looked at Carla and said, Carla, you're the reason for the recall. You know people who look at whether there's water out there. You know people who check and see if the ERA has been done, the Environmental Impact Report. You know people who look at the county regs on planning and seeing if they're being followed. If you weren't on the board, there'd be no recall. Now, those are his exact words. Now, so all this time that we've been fighting this recall, because we've been trying to be upfront, honest, and open. I even proposed to Mike that to get the memos out so the public could see the truth, I said, I'll stand next to you and we'll draft a statement, and we'll read it together, talking about how 7 years ago, prior boards negotiated this. Mike was part of it, so was Mr. Lewis, so was Mrs. Diaz and Brian Freeman. They didn't do their due diligence and make sure it was up to date, because it isn't. That they did it in good faith. There's now problems with it. There's possibility of lawsuits. There's legal questions, because I was trying to get him to agree to make a statement that's not accusatory. So the public can have the document before they vote, and then they can make their own judgment. Because the documents are fairly easy to understand, that they had put together an agreement that had a scheme in it that was going to shift the cost to the existing taxpayers. And how do you do that? One of our attorneys is really, he goes, it's real simple, and it's in, if you know lawyerese, it's in the documents, he goes. It's called a validation. What you do is you send notice to taxpayers in your area, or you put it in the local paper, and you tell them that it's in really bland, legalistic terms, you're looking at a way to raise their taxes without a vote. It's like someone going to do they're going to take your property for the train, eminent domain. Going to court to review Section S2 and future plans, something like that. No one knows what S2 is, right? So you go to court. Like he says, you go to court, nobody shows up. The judge gives you a judgment saying that what you want to do, because it's unopposed, is okay. Now, your taxes go up. And because they're Milaroosas and everything else, they can go up really fast. And there's no, what I read in the document, there's no cap. So your taxes can go up for your current taxpayers without a vote, because you walked around 13, found a way around it. These ideas came out of San Diego and Southern California. Now, when a taxpayer group goes to court and says, we want to fight this, the judge says, and the district would have, you have a prior judgment against you, and that blocks your action. That's the validation. Are you following me? Now, I have always wanted to have an open, honest discussion and debate about this, so the public as a whole knows what prior boards were trying to do. And when it was negotiated in 07, maybe somebody thought it was a really good deal. But they didn't look at it over the years. Because the third thing that is out there is we had a study done to see if it was really as bad as the three of us thought it was. And the study simply said this. The guy was great. He goes, you've got an agreement you should never use as a template for anything. It's outdated. 40% of the money that you assume in the agreement would be there to pay for the schools isn't there now, and won't be. This is going to affect property taxes. They will go up. There are a whole lot of problems, and you have to go back and negotiate it. You're sitting with a rotary phone agreement in an iPod era, and there are issues that could be illegal. Court, as Mike said, well, no court, no judge has said they're illegal. Well, the reason why you ask an attorney to practice what's your opinion is you want to get an idea whether or not you're going to be in court. And we're not, and if you're talking about taxpayer suits, you're talking about suits over the bond itself and all the stuff around the bond, you're not talking tens of thousands, you're talking millions of dollars. And so we've been trying hard to get the public to understand that if they want open government, they want this renegotiated with people who are going to have an eye on making sure it's fair and everybody shares in the burden. They got to vote no. Because if we vote yes, the people who are running against this are the people who wrote the agreement in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Carla, I want you to have a chance to get a few words in.
Okay. I do defer to John a lot, and I respect John and what he has to say.
Well, he's passionate about it,
immensely.
Right?
He's very passionate. I think we did get confirmation of why this recall is in place, and it is because of my understanding of work in the environment that I've done. I've been a law student for 2 years, in environmental law and policy, and I am going to be, I am affiliated with groups, Madera County Water Land Use Study Group, where we have been educating ourselves for some time, long before I decided to run as a board member, on what was happening in southeastern Madera County. So this recall really is about recalling me specifically. So I don't think Kathleen Crumpton is an environmentalist or was looking into the water issues the way I was. I don't think John was looking into the water. The fact that I would look into those things a little more deeply is why they want me out. There is a lack of environmental impact reviews in the first place. So they may be skirting federal law. In other words, existing owners may be getting the short end of the stick with their agreements when it comes to our competition for natural resources. So I'm not anti-development, but I am pro-sustainable development. And so I think they've tried to say I'm anti-development, but I'm not. I just want to make sure that our existing community is harmed in no way or impacted negatively. So I'm going to ask those tough questions about the developments. And they don't like that. So they would like, all they need is to get rid of one of us. And that would be me. And then they have their majority board again. If Mona Diaz is to come back, they'll have their same agreement and they can move forward without any sort of real education nor open, transparent process. The vote last night was to keep the voters in the dark. We voted, there was 3-2. John and I were the only two that wanted these documents released from the developers or from county council and our council that state that this agreement is potentially illegal. Not saying that it is, but it is very controversial, and that and the voters need to know that they could potentially sue the district, and the bond people can potentially sue the district if their bond is not valued what it was previously in their agreement. So, and the exemption causes that bond to potentially be increased with the existing homeowners. So
the tax. And there is a security exchange investigation going on. It is not directed directly at the district, as I understand it, and they get mad when I talk about this. It is directed at the process of how they selected the people to negotiate with the developers. And I don't know who filed with the SEC. I wasn't on the board at the time. I got elected in November and got recalled. So we're trying to get open government. We're trying to make sure our taxes stay low and that we're not negatively impacted. We have a great school out there. You just have to vote no. If you want lower taxes, open government, you have only one choice. You have to vote no. Anything else brings back the old cronyism. And by the way, $14,000 raised in the recall by our opposition. Over 13.5 is from developers out of LA. So this is a developer-funded run recall.
All right. We will see what the results are on September the 1st.
Thank you.
Carla Neal, John Moseley, thank you for coming in today.
Appreciate it.
From Golden Valley Unified in Madera County.
Thank you so much.
Right here on Central Valley Talk.
Thank you.